In this video, you're going to pick up some great tips and tricks on how to install color change vinyl to create a dramatic transformation on this ATV. The first step is to make good measurements. All the ATVs are broken up into clear sections, so once the measurements are taken, a good tip is to roll the vinyl out and use magnets to hold the roll upright as the pieces are being cut up. Always a good idea to start with a centerpiece, and that enables good workflow on the sides. And the two main challenges with wrapping ATVs are the deep recessed areas and the severe compound curves that can put a lot of stress on the vinyl, so it's all about getting the right tools and techniques. So here a monkey strip is placed on the buffer so the film doesn't get scratched, and the biggest thing is it's fed deep into the recessed area, and then with the curves, relief cuts are made, and then the triangle technique is used. So here a relief cut is made in the middle, material is slightly heated, and an excess film is pulled away from the body line. Once it's pulled away, it shifts the material from the outside edge and actually feeds it into that middle section. Here's another deep recessed area, and the material is being picked up and fed into the recessed area as opposed to bridged and pushed in. And then once out of the recessed area, the material is spread out to the corner, which creates glass, and the material is nice and flat and it can be squeegeed on. Now for this particular section, this is what is called a mouth. So the material that was stretched away from the outside edge is now fed into this area, which means it has nice good long-term hold, the material is safely cut away, and then the other side is wrapped the exact same way. And notice here there's a tiny little overlap at the very bottom, but it's hidden exactly where the body line is. Now the material is safely cut away from the bottom side that was wrapped under just a 1/4 inch, and then here's a shot of the final result. So again, that overlap disappears into the body line, all the recessed areas were fed in for long-term hold, and for the compound curves it was a combination of relief cuts and triangles. Now we move on to a center area which has a very deep recessed area, so pay extra attention in terms of cleaning and degreasing it so the material holds. Make sure when you cut your piece you have enough material left to right, top to bottom, and because this recessed area is so deep, if you bridge the material and push it in, the chance of it lifting is very, very high. So in this case, the inside-outside point technique is used. So the material started at the deepest part of the recessed area and then fed out. This requires the use of an application glove, a heat gun sometimes, and a squeegee, but this really neutralizes the stretch in the deepest part of the recessed area, and then using a combination of the right techniques, in this case the triangle technique, to spread the material out to the outside corner, the material can now be fed to the rest of this area. Here, making a relief cut to relax the material around a raised object keeps the material flowing, and here the material bunched up a little bit, so heat was added, then the material was shaken to spread out the tension, and then squeegeed onto the main surface. And notice here, even on very tiny recessed areas, the material is picked up off the surface and then guided in with the application glove. This again neutralizes the tension on these severe deep recessed areas, and this really helps the material hold for the long term. And now we move on to another section, and knifeless tape is being placed on a transition point from one side to the other side, and this is when the material is going to be cut away. And the next piece will go over this as an overlap. So here the material is being picked up and fed in, and the knifeless tape cut away. The reason why this is being wrapped in multiple pieces is because it's such a complex shape that wrapping in one piece will take a long time and may result in the material overstretching. Here on the top section, the material is picked up, tucked into the side, and then cut away with a very sharp knife. And once this top section is cut away, a squeegee comes in and seals the edge before the excess material is removed. And here the same thing at the bottom. The material is picked up, fed into the tight gap. The blade comes in at a 10-degree angle, cuts the excess film away. A flex stream from Avery Dennison finishes off the edges just so they're set up properly. The remaining excess film is cut away and removed at a nice angle, and then the edge is sealed with a flex stream. So now once this section is done, another run of knifeless tape is coming on, in this case on another body line on the outside edge, and this is design line, which has a polyester string that removes quite easily, and then another run of knifeless tape is placed on the first piece that went down. So here the overlap will be about 1/8 of an inch. And once the knifeless tape is set up on either side, the piece is placed on. So starting in this case on the flat section and working out toward the outside edge where the curve is, the material is then guided over the knifeless tape, nice and flat, and the same for the other side. Once the material is tucked onto the knifeless tape, then it's simply removed. Always be sure to pull at a perpendicular angle so the cut is straight, and make sure all the green tape comes out. So once both sides are done, always make sure you come back in with heat and a finger to make sure the edges are down nice and tight, and now another section is being applied. In this case, on the fender area. This area has a severe compound curve, and this is another reason why you want to wrap in sections on ATVs. So once the knifeless tape is set on the outside area and on the inside area, it's ready to be applied. Here, because it's such a compound curve, starting at the transition between the top and bottom is always smart and spreading the tension out. So here, the installer is picking the material up, hooking it on the body line, then spreading the material to the outside corners. This can be done with heat, or if the workspace temperature is good, no heat should be needed. But notice how he pulls along the body line, the transitions between the outside and the inside of this fender piece, and then hooks the corners. This smooths out the material, then he hooks it on the body line, and you can see the material goes nice and flat. Here there's a minor recessed area, so he picks the material up to feed it into the recessed area, making sure it's 100% down. Again, you don't want the material to bridging in this area at all. Then he stretches to the corner to create that glass or the no wrinkle state of the material. And once the material is on the main area, the knifeless tape is released, again pulled perpendicular, and here there's an overlap on the body line, roughly 1/8 of an inch wide. This is for long-term hold, plus the edge faces in towards the body of the vehicle, so it makes it look more seamless. So here in the back section, there's a very complicated deep recessed area where the letters are, so the material is bridged around this. This looks very good and avoids overstretching the film, and you can see that this tiny section on the back was wrapped in multiple pieces as well. So one for the back and one for the sides. The material is cut cleanly away from the bottom and then come back in with heat and application glove to seal the edges. Once this back section is done, now the front section is done. So here the material is being wrapped around the front, and you can see that there's enough material top to bottom and left to right. Knifeless tape was used on the body as prep, so there's no cutting directly on the body with a knife. This avoids long-term damage. And you can see now the material is stretched around the corners using the triangle technique. On this section here, the material is heated and then it's going to be fed into the middle area. So here the material is spread out, and then with an application glove it's fed into the recessed area for no tension. So on minor recessed areas, or ones that don't have severe angles, like this one, even though it looks big, it's actually moderate. But for other ones, they should be fed in. So here the material is being cut flush to the bottom, and immediately the application glove seals the edge. So here the knife angles away and it's cutting the material just flush to the bottom side, nice and clean and straight. Always use a sharp blade and then come back in with a finger or glove and add heat to bottom sections so the material relaxes underneath the transitions. So here you got full coverage underneath the bottom section here and no tension on the corners and recessed areas, so it's all about technique with ATVs. And notice how the free hand holds the material away while the cut is being made in the opposite direction. This creates a nice, good, clean, straight cut, and then the application glove seals the deal. And one very good finishing tip for ATV wraps is, because they're exposed to a lot of wear and tear, there's also a lot of exposed edges, and the surface energy is plastic, coming in with a strip of black film, half on the wrap, half on the plastic. This will help seal the edges and hold any overstretch on these really complicated curves and recessed areas. And the final step is to place tape on one section of the ATV and then do a 360-degree check over. So you loop around the entire ATV, and with the heat gun, squeegee, application glove, and tucking tool, be extra thorough and double check that all air is out of the recessed areas, all the edges are 100% down, and all the overlaps are 100% tight. This will ensure long-term hold and a quality, durable ATV wrap that will last for years and years.